is Dr. Altaf. I'm going to record my first online lecture, and the topic of my this lecture is information security policies. The agenda which will be discussed in this lecture. First of all, we will discuss information security policies, standards, and practices, and then we will discuss different types of security policies. After that, access control list, access control matrix, and configuration rules will be discussed. Dear students, management from all communities of interest, including journal staff, information technology, and information security, must consider policies as the basis for all information security efforts. Policies direct how issues should be addressed and technology should be used. Dear students, policies do not specify the proper operation of equipment or software. This information should be placed in the standards, procedures, and practices of user manuals and system documentation. Information security is primarily a management problem, not a technical one, and policy is a management tool that obliges personnel to functions in a manner that preserves the security of information assets. Dear students, security policies are the least expensive controls to execute but most difficult to implement properly. They have the lowest cost in that their creation and dissemination requires only the time and effort of the management team. Even if the management team hires an outside consultant to help to develop a policy, the costs are minimal compared to those of technical controls. However, shaping policy is difficult because it should never conflict with laws. It should stand up in court if challenged. It should be properly administered through dissemination and documented acceptance. Now, look at the definitions of these terms. The first term is policy. A policy is a plan of a course of actions that conveys instructions from an organization's senior management to those who make decisions, take actions, and perform other duties. Policies are organizational laws through which organization dictate acceptable and unacceptable behavior within the organization. Through policy, the organization the, the policies will be considered as laws because policies define what is right, what is wrong, what the permissions are for violating policies. What are the penalties for violating policies and what the appeal process is. Dear student, standard can be defined as standards are the more detailed statements of what must be done to obey policy appeal. Practices, procedures, and guidelines effectively explain how to obey policy. For a policy to be effective, it must be properly circulated, read, understood, and agreed to by all members of organization and uniformly enforced. The, the meaning of the term security policy depends on the context in which it is used. For example, if a policy is made by a government, so the governmental agencies view security policy in terms of national security and national policies to deal with foreign states. If a policy is made by a credit card agency, then a security policy can also communicate a credit card agency methods for processing credit card numbers. In general, a security policy is a set of rules that protect an organization's asset. An information security policy provides rules for the protection of information assets of the organization. Generally, policies can be divided into two categories. The first one is user policy and the second one is information technology policies. User policies generally define the limits of the users towards the computer resources in a workplace. For example, what are they allowed to install in their computers if they can use removable storages? While IT policies are designed for IT department to secure the procedures and functions of IT fields. Now students, we will discuss different types of security policies. These are the different types of security policies. The first one is permissive policy. It is a medium restriction policy where we as an administrator block just some well-known ports of malware regarding internet access and some exploits are taken in consideration. While in the second uh, type of policy that is known as prudent policy, this is a high restriction policy where everything is blocked regarding the internet access. Just a small list of websites are allowed and no extra services are allowed in computers to be installed and logs are maintained for every users. Next type of policy is acceptance user policy. In this policy regulates the behavior of the users toward a system or network or even a web page. So it is explicitly said that what a user can do and cannot in a system, like are they allowed to share access codes, can they share resources, etc., etc. So students, we will discuss the next type of policy and that is user account policy. This policy defines what a user should do in order to have or maintain another user in a specific system. For example, accessing an e-commerce web page. To create this policy, you should answer some questions such as should the password be complex or not? What age should the user have? Maximum allowed tries or fails to log in. When the user should be deleted, activated or blocked. These questions should be answered while creating a user account policy. Type of policy is information protection policy. This policy is to regulate access to information, not to process information, how to store and how it should be transferred. Remote access policy. This policy is mainly for big companies where the users and their branches are outside their headquarters. It tells what should the user access, when they can work and on which software. For example, the software could be SSH, VPN or RDP. The next type of policy is firewall management policy. This policy has explicitly to do with its management. which ports should be blocked, what updates should be taken, how to make changes in the firewall, and how long should be the logs to be kept. Dear students, now we are going to discuss the next type of policy, which is special access policy. In special access policy, we intend to keep people under control and monitor the special privileges in their systems, and the purpose as to why they have it. These users can be a team leaders, managers, senior managers, system administrators, and such high designation based people. The next type of policy is network policy. As its name suggests, this policy is to restrict the access of anyone towards the network resource and make clear who all will access the network. It will also ensure whether that person should be authenticated or not. This policy also includes other aspects like who will authorize the new devices that will be connected with network, the documentation of network changes, web filters and the level of access, who should have wireless connection, and the type of authentication, validity of connection, session, etc. etc. Now we are moving towards the next type of the policy, which is email usage policy. This is one of the most important policies that should be done because many users use the work email for personal purposes as well. As a result, information can leak outside. Some of the key points of the policy are the employees should know the importance of this system that they have the privilege to use. They should not open any attachment that look suspicious. Private and confidential data should not be sent via any encrypted email. Next is software security policy. This policy has to do with the softwares installed in the user computer and what they should have. Some of the key points of this policy are: software of the company should not be given to third parties. Only the white list of the software should be allowed. No other software should be installed in the computer. Dear students, there are two general methods of implementing such policies. The first method is known as access control list, and the second one is configuration list. Access control lists are set of permissions attached to an object. Now what is object? Object is considered as any asset or any resource which will be accessed by the user. So the user is considered as subject, and the assets or resources will be considered as object. So ACLs are set of permissions attached to an object. It specify which subject may access the object and what operations they can perform. When subjects request to perform an operation, system checks ACL for an approved entity. ACL is usually viewed in the operating system files. Each entry in the ACL table is called access control entity. Beside of ACLs, we have another term which can be found, that is capability list or capability table. Now what is capability table? A capability table specify which subjects and objects users or groups can access. In some systems, Capability tables are called user profiles or user policies. These specifications frequently take the form of complex matrix rather than simple table or simple access control list. So this table, which will be the combination of access control list and capability tables, is called access control matrix. Now we will discuss what is access control matrix. It is discussed that access control matrix is a complex matrix. It is a complex composition of ACLs and capability tables. As you can see in the diagram, ACM, access control matrix, is composed of capability tables and ACLs. As you can see that the rows of ACMs are considered as capability tables, and the column headers or the columns of the access control matrix are called ACLs. For example, Larry is a user. It writes, yeah, it's what she or he can do are specified in this table. For example, Larry can read a file 1. Larry can read and write in file 2. Larry can only read file 3, while Larry has a permission of read and write for file 4. Dear students, ACM includes a combination of capability, as it is seen in the table, in the diagram, that ACM includes a combination of capability table and ACLs, such that organizational assets are listed along the column header while users are listed along the row header. The resulting matrix contains ACLs in column for a particular device or asset and capability table in row for a particular user. Now we are moving towards another term, another control, which is known as configuration rule. Configuration rule policies are the specific instructions that govern how a security system reacts to the data it receives. Rule based policies are more specific to the operation of a system than ACL are, and they may or may not deal with users directly. Many security systems, for example firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention systems, and proxy servers, use specific configuration scripts that represents the configuration rule policies to determine how the system handles each data element they process. So dear students, all about information security policies. If you have any question, please ask your question through KCMS, and I will try my best to answer your questions. Okay, this was my lecture, and I wish you all the best. Take care. Allah Hafiz.